Hey, good morning, James. This is going to be a demo video for you for your Jawa's Junkyard Orgus din, along with the metal chassis that came from Leon as well. So there are a lot of moving parts to this guy. We're going to go over my desk and take a detailed view of it as we normally do, and then at the end let me know if you have any questions and I will get this out in the mail to you today. Thanks, man. Hey, good morning, James. We are going to go over your Orgus din lightsaber from Jawa's Junkyard. There are a lot of things going on with this saber. Very unique. The chassis was very unique. It's very cool that you could see it through this cutout, first of all. So that's cool. You got a crystal chamber right there. We'll light that up here in a second. As you know, the first wood veneer that came, it just didn't fit to the handle. But the second one that you had ordered and that came the other day, it fit. All right. One thing I did have to do is it had major overlap over here, so I had to cut it with an X-Acto knife. It's not perfect. I did get it as close as I possibly could. It's just not perfect. All right. I did get with some trimming. I got all of these greeblies to fit here, here, and here. This is actually your switch, and I'll tell you why I set that up here in a second. All right. To get to your actual chassis, we're going to break this down. We're going to take off the pommel. Although the handle does unscrew and it comes off, I don't really suggest doing that. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the pommel off. You'll notice I printed a spacer. I glued that in. That's to help push the chassis forward. You've got this little piece right here. All right. With your Smuggler's Outpost 28mm Elite speaker. If you take this guy off and put it off to the side, that's where your board is. All right, so that's how you get access to your board. There's enough room for a 90-degree data cable in there, and get some tweezers to get to your SD card. But if you don't want to make any changes, you can just leave this sleeve on, and that's what we're going to do. We're just going to slide that on and put it off to the side. I put all the sound fonts on here that you gave me, and then you gave me one additional one. It's the Orgus din sound font that you got from saberfont.com. So I put that on there too. All of the other sound fonts, that I recently did for your Mamba and your two other sabers, they're on there with a copy of the config file. Okay. Once we get that off, and we take that main chassis out, we're going to have to get this big one out. I like to just put my finger through here to the emitter and give it a little bit of a push until it comes out here. Now you're going to have to pull it straight out. Don't twist it. All right, so we're going to pull it straight out. And there's a reason for that. But before we go over that, this is the chassis that came from Jawa's Junkyard. All right, so we're going to I've got my test battery in right now. The spring side being over here, that's the negative side of your battery. It does say it on the chassis as well. There's a negative symbol on either side and then positive over here. So I'm going to put that battery back in for now. Clip it in. You've got a crystal chamber right there. This is your switch. Now, although you see two switches over here that came with the chassis, I did not utilize these as actual switches. I just used them for the two Neopixel accents that are on each of the PCBs. The reason for that, is because they're originally meant to use these switches right here, this blue guy here and this orange guy. Now, these come with little holders on the bottom of them for magnets. When I've done this saber in the past and I had to make my own chassis, what I've done is I put those magnets in these switches. I came through on my own chassis. I used switches similar to this, and I glued magnets on top of it. So that way when I drop the switches in the handle each time, they had something to latch onto and they didn't fall out. Now this one in particular, although these switches take magnets, there was really no magnets here to hold the switches in, right? So it like depending on how you hold this saber, like the switches would just fall out. I did not like that at all. So what I did was I ended up cutting the magnet holders off of these two guys. I modified them a bit. I put them in and I glued them in. These are greeblies now, and they have shine through because I'm using the Neopixel accents on these switch PCBs. So I hope that makes sense. All right. Another reason why I chose to go one button setup is because your switches are back here, which are behind that that rotary PCB right there, right? So I used the extra rotary trace for the crystal chamber. Okay, so that's what we've got going on right there. All right, and that's why I chose to do that. So I hope that that makes sense to you. Now I had to do a little bit of modifying right here with a Dremel. I had to modify, if it's going to show up on camera, this piece right here with a Dremel, because this is printed in aluminum, I believe. And aluminum, when you print in aluminum, it is pretty notorious for not holding the exact tolerances of your model, and that's kind of what happened here. So I needed to open these areas up, because now we can take the handle off real quick. All right, we'll go ahead and take it off and talk about what I did. If you look inside of this handle, right where your switch is, which is what I chose to do right here, you can see that little piece sticking out in there, right? There's not a whole lot of play, but there's a little bit. If I push it like this, you can see that. And that took a lot of modifying in there to be able to glue this side of the greebly, but still have this side be able to actuate. Very tricky, but I ended up getting it. I did a lot of filing and stuff to that greebly there, because that's printed out of like a clear plastic or a clear resin, and the tolerances weren't tight on that piece. So that took a lot of filing and stuff under here, and I finally got it. But that piece, you know, when you slide it in through the pommel, which we'll do right now, we'll go ahead and put the handle back on it. So remember, when taking the chassis out or putting it in, don't unscrew the handle, just leave it on. All right, so we're gonna lock it down tight. All right, I went ahead and I JB welded your shroud. That's kind of how it's meant to go on. So I did JB weld the shroud on. When you put this chassis in here, you're gonna have to make sure that this channel right here, it starts about right here and it goes all the way to your switch, is lined up with that clear greebly that I showed you in there, which can be kind of difficult to do, but I'll show you a little trick. All right, we're gonna try our best to do it from here. We're gonna get to about right here, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna pay attention to that switch PCB. That switch PCB, we can watch it the entire time that it goes to this blue greebly. All right, and that's how we know that that other piece is lined up. So take your time, don't force it if you're feeling like it's not going. It's gonna get to about right here and it's gonna feel a little stiff. All right, it's kind of a press fit. So just take your time, feel it. After you do it a few times, you really get the feel for it, and it will stop going, you know, as soon as it reaches where it's supposed to be. All right, so now we know that is in there. This is lined up with the switch. I can feel it actuating right here, and we're kind of good to go there. So the good news is you don't have to do that unless you want to take your battery out to charge it, because your kill switch is located right here. So when you take this off, you get your kill switch there. We'll come over here and we'll flip it on. All right, come over here, put this brass sleeve back on, and then this can go in anyway as long as these pins go in first. All right, so we'll just go ahead and come over here. I'm gonna give myself a quick sanity check and just press it up against the chassis. Yeah, so that kill switch is in the on position. All right, now we can take our pommel, we can screw it on. All right, when you start tightening down this pommel the last half a thread or so, you will hear the Saber boot up, because it will push the chassis forward. Just like that. All right, so now when I come over here and I hit power, now we've got our crystal chamber lit up. You've got that lit up, and this is lit up. So if I turn this off, it's a little bit easier to see. Got your PCB in there all lit up. This is the KR Sabers Eco V4 lit PCB. Again. Blade lock up on a one button setup is a double tap, but on the second tap you hold it down. All right. This is made, I believe, for a 1-inch blade. I didn't bring my blade retention with me, but you have a blade retention screw located right there. So for now, I'm just gonna hold it in here real quick and show you that the blade works. So it lights up a blade very well. All right, to go to the next soundtrack, we're gonna do a long press on the button when the saber's off.
Disgraceful.
Now we're to the next soundtrack. Let's do it. Another one.
Master Seer Junda.
Son of Corellia.
My name is Dagon Gera.
This should be red.
Get the youngling together and go! Jedi Knight Dagon Gera.
Now all of these have soundtracks. If you want to play the soundtrack, it's a quick double tap. Right? Another quick double tap to turn it off. Just like that. We'll turn it on. This one's yellow.
Sister. Just a simple wanderer.
Now we're back to the Orgus Din sound font. All right, so normally, if you want to just put this on the shelf or something, as you know, Proffie doesn't have a deep sleep, so you're going to have to come through. Just take your pommel out. This will slide right out into your hand. Slide your brass sleeve off and come over here and flip that kill switch off, just like that. All right, and then we'll put the sleeve back on, and then you could put it back into the saber at this point. I'm going to go ahead and take this out real quick because I need my test battery. All right, so again, just pushing it from the emitter until it pops out here, coming very carefully to come straight out. If you feel it catch, take your time, back it up, try it again. All right, I'm going to go ahead and take the battery out. All right, and then again, when putting it in, remember, this groove has to line up with your switch, but an easy way to make sure that it does is to watch this switch greebly right here that we used for the LEDs, because you'll see that it rides this line all the way down to this blue greebly, right? So it makes it very easy to push the chassis all the way in there and make sure that it's lined up. All right, and then you could kind of check it from here. You'll feel that little tactile feel. It probably doesn't pick up on the microphone for the camera, but you can almost hear it, but you can definitely feel it. All right, put that back in, screw this down, lock it down, and that is basically how you work this guy. So I know that there's a lot of stuff going on in that. I hope that you like the way that that came out. Try to keep up communication with you on the different things that were going on with the Saber. But let me know if you have any questions, and I will get this out in the mail to you today. Thanks.